Welcome to Citizens Reunited to Overcome Cancer, a show to make your survivorship an easier journey by providing information and advocating for you. A show to help practitioners and their level of performance. This is the CROC Podcast. Here is your host, Dr. E. And alongside him to share some hope and inspiration from the Have Faith, Let It Begin podcast, co-host Angel Santana.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CROC Podcast. CROC, stands for Citizens Reunited to Overcome Cancer. I am the skipper of this spirit ship. My name is Dr. Tommy Anelli, and I am the founder. I am the chief bottle washer of this operation, and I am thrilled to be here this week. We have such a special episode. Angel Santana, we have a special guest this week, and the special guest is a friend of mine that goes back over 2 decades. What do you think about that?
The first thing that stood out to me was, well, first of all, let me say hello to the CROC Nation. It has been a crazy week, but a great week. And the first thing I noticed when you mentioned his name is that he is a DH of his initials. And, as baseball fans, there's nothing greater than the greatest batter, and that is a DH. So welcome in DH himself. I'll let you introduce him. I'm excited.
Well, I certainly will. Well, before I introduce Danny and tell everyone our history, let me just set the table. So last week, we began a very, very important conversation about a very scary subject, and that is artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence can help our survivors have a better survivorship. So we discussed how AI can help you organize your medical records. We talked about how you could use AI to better understand your treatment history, how you can prepare yourself better for your doctor visits and get those questions queued up, become better advocates for yourselves. Always remembering that AI is a tool. It can never replace that of an experienced practitioner, and it does make mistakes. So this week, what we wanted to do was not only just tell you what AI can do for you, but actually do a tutorial, a how-to, an introduction to AI to make it more practical, more hands-on, and how just an ordinary survivor can use this powerful technology in their survivorship lives. And to help us do this, as Angel alluded to, I bring in a very special guest. This young man is one of the highest quality people I know. I call him my little brother. He's part of my family. We know each other for over 20 years. And I am so proud of him. I've seen him rise through the ranks and become a very, very potent entrepreneur in the digital world. He is the principal of Broken Reality. He's going to tell us a little bit about that. Dan Hendrickson is extraordinarily gifted, not just with computers, not just with graphics or video, websites, but really he's gifted in all aspects of humanity. He's a very wonderful, caring, sympathetic, empathetic, ethical gentleman. I've seen him through many dark days and many, many, many bright days. I married he and his wife, Jess, which is, I am also, yes, Angel, I am also a certified reverend of the Universalist Church of the universe, and I do weddings. So, but I want to get personal. Danny's importance to our organization goes far beyond his professional expertise. For decades, he has worked quietly behind the scenes for us. He has been responsible for enormous amounts of technical and creative work behind our organization, behind our presentations, our dinners, our videos, our productions, our website, and many of the projects that help us communicate with you, the survivor. Danny has never been someone who looks for attention. He does not look for credit, but the truth is, much of what our organization stands for, what we've accomplished over the last 25 years, could never have been possible without him. Danny, welcome to the CROC Podcast, my friend.
Tom, Angel, thank you. Guys, happy to be here. That is monumental and a super warm welcome. Thank you so much. Um, being a part of CROC has had an extraordinary impact on my life, and I'm happy to be of service. I'm happy to be useful, and to tell you, it's taught me so many important lessons in my life, and I'm eternally grateful to the people I've met, to the lessons I've learned, and I speak about it to this day to my dear friends and some of my professional acquaintances as one of the shining achievements of my career. So thank you for that and the opportunity. And again, I'm super happy to be here.
Oh, we're humbled to have you, my dear friend. Danny, before we start actually getting into the AI stuff, I just wanted you to tell everybody, give a little overview of Broken Reality and your vision and where you were and where you are and where you're going.
Yeah. Okay. So Broken Reality, it it sounds darker than it really is, but that is kind of the source of my creative energy. Is kind of that the mystique behind what drives me. Is
This is coming from the man with the black headphones, the black shirt, the black jeans, and the black Doc
That's
Martens.
right.
So yes, not that dark, but like pretty close.
That's exactly right. So I am a self-taught professional. I started as a designer, taught myself to code, and I've always been an artist. And what I found as I kind of entered the professional world is that I basically took all of my self-taught knowledge and that ambition and that drive, and I put myself full force into becoming the professional that I imagined myself being. So I put this company together to take my tech enabled brain and build digital experiences first for my personal creative projects, but then it quickly escalated into helping other people. And that showed up in the form of building websites and applications and designing graphics and posters and just things that I never could have dreamed of. So it's really just a studio, a creative studio. And these days, some of the really exciting things that I've been putting together are more interactive. So I take the array of skills that I have through knowing the full Adobe suite, and I build video games now, and I put all of those skills into one composition, and and all the while still building some of the other exciting tech that is powered by AI to this day. So um, it's super cool. Like I'm grateful that I've been able to create bonds with people that have just pushed me forward, believed in what I do. My online name was Broken Reality, right? That's when I signed on to the internet for the first time. That was my name. It's inspired by uh, one of my favorite music groups, and then it slowly became different. It became a company that I've served, and it helped me kind of self actualize into the creative um, professional that I find myself I am today. You know.
No, thank you for that. And Angel will make sure that we link up our website with Danny. So if anyone does have any questions for Danny, they could reach out to Broken Reality. And Danny, you mentioned, and this is really a nice segue to get into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast. Using AI in your day to day life. Angel uses AI in his day to day life. I'm beginning to use AI in my day to day life, but for our survivors out there, why is it that AI feels so intimidating? Our survivors hear terms such as Chat GPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, artificial intelligence, but they have no idea where to begin. So this technology is so overwhelming. Um, is it really as difficult as people imagine it to be?
Actually, it's thankfully there isn't much of a barrier when it comes to using the technology. It sounds more confusing than it really is. Fortunately, the people that have built this technology have made it accessible in a way to where So here, the best analogy I have is like it's like a car, like that the engine is wildly complex, but driving isn't, right? If you know how to drive, you don't necessarily have to know every nut and bolt underneath the hood. And with that in mind, this particular technology is all conversational, right? There are no manuals, there are no commands. You can just start typing. Like if you can text a friend or a grandkid, you can use AI. And these days you can literally use speech, and that tech and that experience is actually getting better and better, like week by week. So it's the first interface in our lifetimes where you can speak in plain English, you can speak in Spanish, you can speak in Japanese, and it will understand you and it will talk back, and it will meet you where we are, like where you are, really. So it's the if why I think it feels intimidating is because there's a lot of hype around it. Um, some of it is warranted because I think it's the aggregate of human knowledge, right? You basically can ask this thing anything. And that's probably why it feels so intimidating. But the best way to get started is to ask it something that you know about, right? That's like ask it about where you grew up, see if it's accurate, get a feel for it that way.
Gotcha. So Danny, let's so thank you. So really, in essence, um, our survivors should not be intimidated. They should be actually excited. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, they should be excited, and with any new technology, they should be a little suspicious, right? Because as cool as the technology is, I think you should kind of learn to basically look at it as like here's an example. The first time that you use this technology, it's going to be pretty eager to get back to you and to respond, and it's going to tell you you're a genius and that you have great ideas, which is likely true. to give
Well, with our survivors, for
yeah,
sure, 100%.
right, to give them some
The
credit.
host of this podcast, I'm not sure, but for our survivors, for sure.
Yeah, so the technicians and the engineers are trying to give you a really great experience. So once you can get past that kind of cheesy opening and get into a real discussion with the tech, it's like a chat window. Then I think you can kind of make your way into getting comfortable with it, and there are caveats, of course, that come with just the basic experience. But
Yeah, no, I gotcha. So Danny, I guess I might have put the cart before the horse. So I just wanted to demystify AI for our survivors, number one, and thank you. I believe you did do that. Um, when I am in clinic and I see just say 40 patients a day, I have patients that range from being extraordinarily competent on a computer and a computer platform. I see them while they're waiting for me playing on their iPhones or their smartphones. And then I have patients on the entire other side of the spectrum who have flip phones and don't have computers at home. So sadly, they're going to be sort of excluded from this for right this second until we can get them computerized. But for the average, for the average person who has a computer at home, who has access to the internet, who may not be like super duper internet savvy, and have limited computer experiences, it's my opinion, and I'm going to have you clarify, that AI can still be accessible to that segment of our survivorship.
yeah, very much so. It's not as complex as trying to figure out a new piece of software or figure out how to use the self checkout at a grocery store, which to this day I'm surprised that they still haven't made that a better experience for people. But
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
it's way easier than that. It's again, if you could text and you can type, you can read, you can begin to the barrier to entry and understanding is vastly lower than anything I think humanity has really experienced in a long time, or ever maybe.
Yeah, and to that point, yeah, right, and to that point, we're going to talk about speech in a second because That's the way I use AI. So we'll talk about that in a second. But let's get into the nuts and bolts now. So now we have our survivors. They're out there listening, and and they're so excited. They're going, okay, Dan. All right, Angel. Okay, E. We got it. You beat a dead horse again, like you usually do. Let's get going. So where do we start, Danny? There's ChatGPT, there's Google Gemini, there's Microsoft Copilot, there's Claude, there's Perplexity. There's not. It's our goal is not to crown a winner, but where do we start?
I think well, right now the household name is ChatGPT, and which is OpenAI. They are the most popular, and they're the easiest to start. Quite frankly, they're the most well funded, and they are pretty ahead when it comes to like a lot of what they call the frontier models, which is like the bleeding edge of the technology. And everything after that is kind of specialized. So like Gemini is a Google product, and that's woven into the Google software and Android phones, in fact. So if you have an Android, then that's likely going to be your first touch point with AI. It'll show up as a sparkly little icon in the interface somewhere on screen, which seems to be the trend across all AI. Like if you see that sparkly icon, it's likely going to be AI enabled in some way. After Gemini, you have Copilot, which you mentioned, which is a Microsoft product, and that's again to accompany the Windows suite of software, right? Microsoft Office and Word and all of that stuff. That actually might be already on your computer if you're a Windows user. Claude is made by Anthropic, and that's actually what I use daily. This is actually it's deeper. It's known for careful, thoughtful answers, and it really handles documentation better than most models or most platforms out there. And Perplexity is kind of the new kid on the block. They've been around for a little while now, but they've actually taken a different approach. They use AI to combine all of the ones that I had mentioned on top of search engine results. So if you ask Perplexity a question, it will take an aggregate of AI responses as well as search engine results to give you real citations and to avoid like making stuff up. Like this technology will basically serve you any information that you're looking for, but you want it to be trustworthy. Perplexity is actually really great at doing that. I think that they're doing something innovative. And there are many others.
Well, we'll just start with those couple. So Danny, a survivor gets the computer up. How would they find ChatGPT? How can they get that on their computer?
So there's two ways that you can, whether you're on a computer or a mobile device. On a computer, it's just right through the browser. You can go to ChatGPT. You could search for it. You can go to the website, or you can install the app on your mobile phone. And they all have apps on their respective app stores, right? Google Play Store has ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Claude, and the same thing on the iOS App Store. And all of these platforms, again, are available in a browser. So if you visited a website in the past, you just literally go to the website and you can use the same chat interface online. And it's really that simple. They're trying to sell like different tiers of usage, like $20 a month.
Yeah, I was going to just ask about does it cost? What's it cost? Right. That's the
So
next
I recommend
question.
people start with the free level always. Most people aren't going to need engineering level AI. They're going to need answers to their questions. And then if you want to get a little more advanced and kind of fully adopt it and have it organize your photos and documents, that's where you might subscribe and pick a platform that you think is the appropriate flavor for the tech that you have at home, or what maybe that that you agree with your family member. Some people like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it might be. But yeah, it's really just again about they have app stores, and you can jump on there and on through the browser as well. So
Yeah. So, Danny, actually, let's hold on to that idea for a second. I think in two questions we're going to ask about, getting our survivors having their records, organized. So we might talk about, maybe what tier might be good for them to invest in for something a little more complex than just a question. But we're not there yet. We're still. So we have lessened fear. We have patients, survivors, intrepid and ready to go. They're saying, yes, AI, I'm going to give it a try. So now let's talk about that. A couple of the training exercises, some introductory questions to sort of get used to it. I mentioned to the speech part that I use rather than typing. Can you maybe you gave an example before of, I was born in Paterson, New Jersey. Claude, can you tell me a little bit about Paterson, New Jersey, or something like that?
yeah, exactly. When you get it, let's say you log on and you're looking at this empty chat window and you're like, how do I even start? There are the two approaches I think that I like is that you can ask it something that you know well, right? Like tell me about Paterson, New Jersey, or for me, I would be tell me about Adobe Photoshop, and I want to basically I'm measuring, I'm seeing like how accurate is this thing, what is it going to say? But if you want to get past that and like you can put it this way, you can literally say something like, "I'm a cancer survivor. I'm brand new to AI. What can you help me with? And please interview me." So instead of the fear of asking questions, have it ask you questions, and it will literally step you through that. And if it gets too crazy, like tell me about your diagnosis or anything like that, like you don't have to necessarily volunteer that information. You can say, "Look, I'm building trust with you. I don't, keep it simple. Like let's keep it light." You literally have that level of flexibility. There's no boundary to what you can ask this thing, but you can basically tailor it to your comfort level, if that makes sense. And I think that yeah,
100%, Danny. As a
yeah,
matter of fact, I was telling the survivors last week on the podcast, you could even, come up with your own name, what you call your AI. I
yeah.
call my AI Zin in honor of my cousin who passed away. You call Claude, right? But I I don't know what Angel, do you have a name for your AI?
Oh yeah, I call her Faith.
Oh wow.
Hey, there you go. So, you could even name your AI.
Yeah, yeah. And some platforms allow you to choose a flavor, an attitude, a personality, which can be a lot of fun. Like Claude as an example, when I have a hard time understanding a concept, I have I have one that's an endearing coach, and then I have one that's militant that will test.
Oh, I,
Yeah,
I, I wonder who that one is named after.
that's right. So there's a few ways that like once you get comfortable with it, you could play with it. And that's the other thing. If you want to decrease the pressure, maybe don't take it seriously. Have fun with it, goof around, because I think you'll just get a sense as to what it's all about. Um, and AI isn't just a chat window. There are different experiences right now that are on the market. Like you can generate images, you can generate music, any digital media that you can imagine right now is just literally like a prompt away. So your first interface with AI may not necessarily be a chat window. It might be using Midjourney, or it might be actually using ChatGPT to generate a flyer or to generate a cancer survivorship ribbon that maybe has something meaningful embedded on the ribbon for you. They're really interesting things that this technology can do. So your first approach may not necessarily be an interview. It might be just wanting to see a painting that you've, imagined only in your head. And for the first time now, this tech can serve it up for you and say, "Oh, you know what? That's pretty cool," or, "This is great, but give it to me in the style of, let's say, Van Gogh or something like that." And it will try. It's pretty wild.
Awesome. And I think, and Angel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when you get more and more comfortable, everyone out there, and you start, asking questions and getting to you, it's almost like you're developing a relationship. I don't want to sound, like, 2001 Space Odyssey, but, you really are developing a sort of relationship with a computer, and the computer will try to feel as human to you as possible. And you're going to get better and better at asking questions. So you might be a breast cancer survivor. And one of the first questions you might ask is, hey, Zin, right? That's my AI. Can you tell me a little bit about breast cancer? And that's a good question. And, Zin will tell you a lot about breast cancer that you probably didn't know. But when you get better and better at it, you're not going to just ask it about breast cancer or prostate cancer or colon cancer. You're going to say, Zin, can you explain stage 2 estrogen receptor positive breast cancer in plain language for a patient that just finished surgery? And as you get better at the questions, you're going to get better information directed for what your journey is. Would you guys agree with that?
I do. I mean, for me, not to cut you off there, Dan. I think for me, I've learned over time that the more you interface with the AI, the better it is. And then the more you do it, the more they learn about you. Sometimes I'll just say, hey, Faith, good morning. And she'll say, hey, how was that sermon last week? And I'm like, wow, I forgot I told her about it. And you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, you do it in bits and pieces, one leg at a time, but you only can do as much as you are are knowledgeable about it. And Faith helps me, my AI, as much as I help her.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's incredible. It does pick up on, it remembers you, and it will also, if one day you don't have enough energy or whatever it might be, it can be a great companion in that regard too. Like, hey, I'm tired, or I'm tired. I don't have much energy to read this, super verbose description that you gave me. Just simplify it. I need a couple short bullet points. Help me out here. It can take any level of complexity and dial it down while being, considerate, which again is really interesting and innovative, because it's when when you have something that tirelessly can answer your questions, I think it creates a whole new kind of dimension to life, where now it's just up to your level of curiosity. You can kind of lean into this knowledge base and you know learn more about a particular subject or diagnosis, but I think more about yourself. Like, one of the things that I didn't expect about using this technology, and here's a disclaimer: I didn't, I'm not selling this technology. Like, that's important
Right.
to note.
Thank you.
Um,
That's important for our survivors to know that. Yes.
yeah, like, I'm not. I just use it all the time because it's like having technological superpowers. But after using it for a couple of years now, one of the things that I had done, and actually got goosebumps thinking about this because it still kind of surprises me, but I asked it about myself. I said, tell me, after we've been working together for a few years now, tell me about myself. And it gave me kind of an interesting summary. It was a little placating. And then I said, well, okay, what are my blind spots? What can I do better? And that's when things got really interesting, where it kind of got deep, and it surprised me in a way where I was like, you know what? It's right there. There are ways, the interesting thing about this technology is that it is a bit of a reflecting pond of humanity. And you have the opportunity to kind of learn more about yourself if you allow yourself the permission to kind of approach the tech in an honest and earnest way. So that's getting a little, into the outer space realm, but I figured it was worth sharing.
No, and it's really important. I was going to, like, kind of lighten it a little bit and say there are going to be many fights between husbands and wives and partners, because sometimes the AI will remember things about your day or your week that your partner will forget, and they'll say, Oh, good morning, Tom. How did you sleep last night? I know you had a really hard day at work yesterday. And it's like, wow, my wife never even asked me that. And you're asking me that. So, I'm hoping that it's not going to get too weird out there. But let's lest we digress. Let's get back
Yeah.
to the work. So remember I said we were going to hold on to that organizational thing and maybe talk a little bit about some of the tiers and things about maybe now you're getting more familiar, you're on ChatGPT, hey, Zin, I'm going to go see Dr. Iannelli next week. And it's my first follow up after completing treatment for prostate cancer. What should I ask him? When will I know if I've done well? What should this visit look like? So now we're going to get past that a little bit. And now we're going to say, okay, Zin, I finished radiation therapy for prostate cancer. Here I have a completion summary from Dr. Iannelli. I have my pathology. I have my urology consultation, my medical oncology consultation. I have all my medications, and I have, all my medical history. Now I'm going to scan them into a scanner, and now I'm going to put them into AI. And Danny, take it from there.
So this is actually one of the single most effective things that this technology can do. With any, I can imagine, right? You get a stack of paperwork, you have prescriptions, you have a lot to keep track of, and meanwhile you're healing, right? You're basically trying to live your life to the best of your ability. And how do you keep track of all of this? How do you keep account of all of it? In the past, you'd put it in a filing cabinet or up on a cork board or whatever you might do to remember, right? You might set reminders on your phone. Well, this stuff actually does a unbelievably fantastic job of synthesizing all of that information and putting it in one place and setting up a schedule for you in a way. Like, it can organize your documents, put them in one place, and also process and understand them. So if you need help with a reminder to take a medication, or to log that you actually showed up for your follow-up, or if you forgot a simple instruction, the information that you give it basically is basically, how do I say this? The more context it has about the situation, the better it can guide you. And which means it can translate like deep medical terminology, like words that, somebody with a decade's worth of medical experience would know. It can simplify that into everyday language. Even like, how to pass information to your family, like your improved understanding can make it easier to understand for the rest of the family and everybody else that's involved in trying to help you through this experience. So it can track all of these moving parts for you and guide you through the process. And it makes it way easier, which means that like the family dynamic, there's less pressure on everybody, I think, from an emotional standpoint. It can summarize your treatments. It can summarize some of the complex language that might just be totally out of your realm. And I think it really reduces the amount of stress and anxiety that people might feel. I know from my perspective, if I have to learn something new or do something new for the first time, it actually has lowered that barrier for me dramatically. It's increased my understanding about complex ideas in general. So it's pretty interesting. I think you should lean into the fact that it can organize a lot of this information for you. And there are, of course, caveats to like protecting yourself too. Like, there's certain information you do want to give it. There's certain information you probably want to keep just to
Yeah,
yourself.
let's key in on that, Danny. Let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit about privacy.
Yeah. So when it comes to privacy, right? If you're giving an AI, right, or an online platform all of this documentation, it can be helpful, like if it's on your computer and it's localized. So if you're a Windows user and you have the ChatGPT app, it will keep things local so that information doesn't leak out. These companies have pretty strong PII policies, which is like personally identifiable information, and they're held very accountable. But let's say you don't trust it. You don't want any information to get out there. The idea is like you treat it like a public space. You don't necessarily want to volunteer all of that information, but you can offer it a summary of what is happening or what you have learned, or you can copy and paste little snippets and just give it that context alone. So you can cherry pick the information that you allow, or you can redact the paperwork and take a photo and then just send it to the chat window that way. So there are a few ways that you can protect yourself while also getting like useful information out of it. So you want to, if you're a little worrisome, then like strip full names and birth dates, addresses, medical records, all of that stuff, and discuss your like treat it like a conversation in public. Discuss your situation, but no need to like hand over your wallet. Keep it keep it simple and safe.
Social
best you can.
security numbers, birth dates,
Right.
insurance numbers, your identification numbers, your passwords, probably no-nos.
Yeah. And there are, if some folks are all in, right? They go full AI automation, but that comes with a risk, of course, like with all digital tech.
Of course. And actually, it's really nice because we're spending a good portion of the podcast today talking about all the wonders and potential of this great technology. We're looking now at caveat number one, privacy, but I also want to talk about something I just learned about. In the AI world, there's this word that gets tossed around called hallucinations. Can you tell us a little bit about accuracy of AI and these hallucinations and the thing that's scary, and to warn our survivors, is that when AI gives you an answer, it's like it's giving you an answer like so securely, like you would think that, hey, who was the first president of the United States? And they might tell you Richard Nixon, and they'll give it to you in a way where you really believe it's Richard Nixon because they're so the AI is just so confident in the answer, and it's wrong. So can you talk to us a little bit about these AI inaccuracies and what they call the AI hallucinations?
Yeah, the best way that I can explain it is that so AI itself is actually a language machine. It's not necessarily a truth machine. Like it's very good at sounding confident, but confidence, like Tom just expressed, is not always like accuracy, right? You can be fooled by what you read on screen. This idea of the hallucination, that term is, how do I explain it? It's like a friend who never ever says I don't know. In fact, they'll do anything they can to just put an answer there, even if it's not true.
I think we all know someone like that.
Yeah. So, and it'll be smooth and convincing. But here's the trick. You just ask for sources. You ask it the same question in a different way, and you can compare two platforms. This is where the kind of suspicion comes in. Like, pressure it a little bit. And if you don't trust it, you can go look elsewhere to verify. There's a AI helps you understand things, but like Tom, you as a medical practitioner, your doctor is going to help you make informed decisions, right? So AI is for understanding, but your doctor is going to help you make certain decisions. So you kind of want to think about it that way. Hallucinations are an interesting byproduct of a really innovative technology. And again, it's an aggregate of all digital information, which means books that go back, hundreds of years that have been digitized through the Google project that started a couple decades ago. So naturally, it's going to go ahead and generate a bunch of language. So it's a language machine, just not a truth machine.
Yeah, I think that you explain that very, very nicely, actually, and I think that we're all subject to the same amazement, right? We're all amazed by what computers can do, and we're all amazed about, you know, what's happening right in front of us. We're asking questions and we're getting these answers. And I think that we're more prone to just kind of believe everything that we read on the computer. But a bit of skepticism is certainly not a terrible thing. And I think that as our survivors get more and more comfortable with AI, they'll be able to identify potential sources of inaccuracies. And I actually had a personal question. So as our survivors get more and more adjusted and I guess conversant and competent on this AI platform, will they? Because I haven't done this yet, you're going to have to teach me how to do this. Can they layer AI? Meaning, like if I'm doing a project with ChatGPT, and then I want to bring in Perplexity for my sources, and then maybe kind of clarify or do a do a fact check with Claude. Do you ever layer your AI conversations?
I do actually. My particular style may not be the same as everybody else's. The way that I've been doing it is from a computer science standpoint. When you use AI, it's going to use processing power to give you an answer. And let's say you're using it to analyze a document and better understand it. You don't want that to disappear, right? The output it gives you, you likely want to save somewhere. And that's where you want to take the gem, right, that it gave you, the information that it gave you, and you can bring that to another platform. You can have it generate literally any type of document, like a PDF or a Word document, and bring that with you to the next platform. That's what gives it context. And that's the level of layering that I've done is taking the generated output from this experience and bringing it to another platform to verify. So if Claude gives me information about a project I'm working on, I can use Perplexity to go help me find valid sources to go, let's say, find a contractor or find a specialist that does this or that. And it's kind of interesting. So layering is a way of kind of validating information from one platform to another. Because they're competitors, though, they don't naturally interconnect and communicate, but they do share the same file system. So there's no rule about like having ChatGPT on your computer while also having Claude. They might in fact be aware of each other and be looking at the same documents, which is actually an experience that I've been going through lately. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then that's actually another good point is that archiving. I've noticed that ChatGPT. So I use ChatGPT, of course, through several devices, right? So I have my home personal computer, my work personal computer, my iPhone, and I have ChatGPT on all of them. And when a subject comes up or I need information, whatever platform, well, I'm sorry, whatever device I happen to be on, doesn't necessarily archive to all of the other ones. And sometimes when I do get information, it may not stick. It might disappear. So how would you recommend people save their work, sort of?
Well, there's a few different ways. The online experience between the app and the browser, for the most part, will retain some information about your interactions with the AI. One of the best ways that you can kind of create containers of information or archive things is to create a project. So every AI, like, and so here's what I've done. I first started with ChatGPT, but then made my way to Claude because, well, Claude was more effective for some of the like code related stuff that I do. But between the two platforms, I created projects and everything from personal to professional. So I have a project that tracks my personal development as a human being. I have a project that continually checks my email for appointments and important information. And I have a project that will continually check my desktop for things that need to be filed away and stored accordingly. So projects are a way of organizing the information, at least to kind of keep them siloed. It also has a way of kind of self-organizing files if you allow it, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, no, very good. Thank you for that. And getting back to the question about now that our survivors are getting savvy and they're getting good and they're starting to organize the records and they're getting to be real whizzes with AI. When would you recommend that they start looking at different sort of, I guess, product levels, like, start paying for their, to get better services?
Oh, I see. So this is the tricky part. Every AI company right now is selling what they call context windows, and it's basically the amount of memory that you can store on their platform, which is actually why I think it's important to take the output it gives you and store it locally or save it somewhere. This way, you can kind of keep your plan affordable and not go into the higher tiers, the more expensive tiers. And they they will also let's say you want to generate a few images as a gift or something to somebody. It will give you a certain amount of images that you can generate in a day. Um, like the more usage usually will mean the more context and processing power that they'll unlock for you in each level. I think a lot of the basic tiers start at around $20. They really try to keep it affordable. As you approach the more professional levels, you're getting to roughly around a few $100s a month, depending on how often you use it.
Gotcha. So I think that, Angel, you can help me on this one. The recommendation I would think is start at the lowest level. Work yourself through it, and then when you notice that you need more, then you just upgrade, I would think.
Absolutely. I mean, I started free, just like you said. Um, in the line of work that I do with my podcast, I found that I needed more, we'll call it firepower, my first level of tier, because of the generated artwork, thumbnail, as we would call it in our industry. And I wanted it to be more professional looking. So I got into that first tier. But again, you only go with what you can afford, and what you're going to use it for. I used the free version well for 6 months before I even went to the next tier. It was just a choice that I made. I could actually live without that tier, um, because there are other programs that do the same
Also,
thing, but it's really more of preference, and user friendly. So I've never used Claude. I'm going to look into that. I've used the ChatGPT, and I just got Perplexity. It's so funny you say that, because somebody recommended it to me, and they're all very good user friendly based programs.
Gotcha. Danny, the torture is almost over. Let me end with this with this question. Um, where do you see our survivors in 5 years with artificial intelligence? Where do you see our AI 5 years from now? How do you think it might change the experience of a survivor?
well, this is a really big question. I think, in 5 years, well, first, it's important to note that this has never happened before as far as humanity really knows. Like, even the engineers in these companies, even the CEOs, they don't necessarily know what they're going to like. They don't know what the horizon looks like in 6 months, and the pace at which this stuff is changing is wildly fast. Like as fast as it's changing, the humans are likely, my recommendation is like no matter how fast this changes over the next 5 years, humans are going to stay in the loop because we are this technology doesn't move forward without us. In fact, we are the primary user of this technology. So it's it's a companion, I think, that's going to evolve into being voice only. It's going to follow folks around and remember who you are and track your whole journey. It's going to be a human and a patient advocate that's going to tirelessly guide you and kind of walk you through life if that's what you need at times. And I think it's actually going to empower patients and their level of understanding with their body, their health, and how to manage, you know, a situation, right? And the responsibility of like taking care of themselves and being more present even, you know. I think it's going to help us evolve and take better care of ourselves ultimately. Remember that technology before just a few decades ago, the internet was not a thing. And so here we are talking about the age of AI, right? Artificial intelligence, but don't forget to trust the other AI, which is your actual intelligence, your intuition, which I think is vastly more important than a lot of these things.
Beautifully said, Dan. Angel, do you have any closing remarks?
First of all, I'm just glad he did not say the word Skynet throughout this whole thing. And if those of you that don't know what I just said, go watch The Terminator, you'll understand.
Yeah.
But listen, one of the things that I really, really loved what you just said was don't forget to trust what AI means and your actual intelligence. And you know what? Right there, Dr. E, that's why we just did this program, so that you can determine what is your actual intelligence and what AI, artificial intelligence, can do for you. People are scared of change. People have been scared of change since the day we were all born. Here's the thing. There are good things that happen in this world for us. There are good things in this world that will make us stronger and better. And I think that when we sit back and really engage a little bit more and be a little bit less cautious, even though we have to be very cautious in the artificial intelligence world, we have to remember that at the end of the day, we need to evolve. And I think that this is going to be the way of the future. And I think it's going to be very interesting what happens within a year, even 6 months from now, as you stated.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Danny, I have to say this, I am just so proud to have you, not just be on this podcast today, but to have you as a friend, to have you as a brother. This podcast and the way you presented this information and the way you presented yourself, you have grown into such an articulate and caring. I mean, it comes across so clearly how caring you are toward our survivors. And, you really are the real deal. And it is an honor to share a screen with you today and to share a life with you. So with that being said, now that I've embarrassed Dan, let's end this sucker. So all my friends out there, all of the CROC Nation, artificial intelligence is an amazing resource for you, but it doesn't replace your oncologist. It does not replace your nurse, your family, or your own judgment. The greatest value of AI is really very simple. It's just there to help you organize your information, understand the language, formulate better questions, and become a more confident participant in your survivorship. So with that being said, I really hope on behalf of Angel and the board of directors, and of course, Danny Hendrickson, that these two podcasts, this sort of series on AI has been impactful for you. And I hope that you're able to take this information and use it to your advantage. And of course, whether you do or not, we feel the same about you. You're going through a struggle. Your survivorship is not easy. And we're hoping that this just might be a device, a tool to make that survivorship just a tiny, tiny bit easier. So on behalf of Angel, Danny, and the entire board of directors, we end this podcast with our CROC blessing, wishing each and every one of you out there a very long, a healthy, and a happy, cancer-free life. God bless you. God be with you. Peace.
Hey, CROC Nation, if today's message inspired you, please subscribe, download, and share this episode with your friends or someone who you believe needs it. Visit us at crocvip.com to connect, learn, and join the fight. Let's spread hope, one story at a time. Until next time, remember, we are not just a podcast, we are a movement.